There are increasing calls for transformational change to combat global warming. We are asked to change the way we behave, what we eat, the cars we drive, the buildings we live in. But how often do we consider changing the rules that we live within? Those rules are policies, often set by governments. By changing policies, we can change lives. UNDP's New Nature Pledge is a commitment to support over 140 countries to reach ambitious biodiversity targets, for which changing policies and practices is essential. Countries lead the policy changes which are grounded in local communities and indigenous peoples. UNDP works with governments on food and agricultural commodity systems. Together they introduce a range of new and updated policies that support more sustainable agricultural commodity production. By protecting ecosystems and minimising deforestation, agricultural commodity systems transformation offers huge potential for both mitigation and adaptation to climate change. This short video looks at this policy work in 3 key countries: Indonesia, Liberia and Paraguay. By developing or improving 19 land use policies, 129 million tonnes of CO2 emissions was saved. The UNDP-led Good Growth Partnership was founded by the Global Environment Facility. As GEF CEO Carlos Manuel Rodriguez says, "At the end of the day, it's a mixture of good market and good policies that lead to transformation." In agricultural commodity systems, policy work can be split into 2 aspects: where to produce and how to produce. Land use policies define where to produce, and sustainable farming practices guide how to produce. We'll start with policies around where to produce. In Indonesia, new policies protected 824,000 hectares of high conservation value, HCV, and high carbon stock, HCS, areas. The new policies encourage any development to take place on already cleared land because they forbid new clearance in the most critical areas. In Liberia, community conservation agreements are the key policy innovation, protecting 5,000 hectares of high conservation value forest. They limit practices by pit sawing and charcoal production and empower local communities as forest stewards. In Paraguay, cattle ranching threatens the Chaco savanna. New policies map 7 million hectares of HCV and HCS areas to provide inputs into decision-making on land use planning. So, policies covering land use changes protect ecosystems and reduce deforestation. But once you've decided to use the right land, how do you ensure the right things are done with it? Policies on sustainable production techniques benefit farmers and their communities. In Indonesia, smallholders need support. They need to increase productivity and shift to more sustainable agricultural practices. This reduces the risk they'll expand production through deforestation. New policies are promoting companies' support to smallholders and the development of private extension service provision to support farmers to grow more sustainably. In Liberia, the country's palm oil policies are now in line with world standards. The Roundtable on Sustainable Palm Oil National Interpretation Process adapted the global principles and criteria. In the Liberian context, this included defining the minimum wage for workers and which expansion practices were allowed. Now, Liberia joins a network of 94 RSPO countries. In the Paraguayan Chaco, the need for policy change is dramatically different. Here, wildlife such as the jaguar prey on livestock, especially calves, leading to ranchers hunting them. To avoid this killing of endangered species, a proposed jaguar management protocol was developed with support from GGP. It includes video surveillance, appropriate fencing and other prevention and deterrence methods. A healthy stock of natural prey for jaguars is also provided. In this way, jaguar populations can coexist within the beef production landscapes. So, how are these policy changes developed? Typically, there are 5 main steps. Each of these takes time. The aim is to transform whole food systems. That means having a truly inclusive multi-stakeholder process with everyone involved in cycles of deep collaboration. At UNDP, we call this effective collaborative action. Let's take a look at the development of Indonesia's land use policies supporting sustainable palm oil. First of all, there's a full assessment of HCV and HCS areas, checked on the ground and fully consulted with all interested parties. This might take 6 months to complete. Second, the land use plan is developed by a multi-stakeholder policy task force. This includes all the relevant government ministries, the private sector, farmer groups and so on. This stage could take a year. Third is policy development, taking 6 to 15 months. All levels of government have to be engaged. A policy brief is produced. After public consultation, the draft policy is finalised. At the fourth stage, the policy is legalised, placed on the statute books. This could take up to a year. It should unlock a budget and capacity for implementation. It will enable the new policy to be legally enforceable. Finally, it's time to implement and enforce the policy, and to improve it based on lessons from implementation. But even now, the policy process isn't over, because it's essential that these policies take hold at every geographical level. A national policy is a strong enabler. The same policy principles at regional, district and local levels have to be in place if we're to achieve the change we want to see. Hence the importance of socialising the policy at all the necessary levels. In this short video, we've looked at how governments create the context for change to happen. The right policies can encourage the transformation of agricultural commodity systems to become equitable, resilient and sustainable. Policy change takes time, and it needs an experienced partner such as UNDP to guide the process. As UNDP Administrator Achim Steiner said at the launch of the Nature Pledge, we must work with nature as our most powerful ally if we're to secure the future of people and planet. Policy change helps us to do that.